Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 9th episode of the Prosperity Project. My name is Braden Turner.
And I'm Lily Poteet.
And today we have a very, very special guest with us. Her name is Patterson. Emily, welcome.
Hey, guys.
Emily, you go to Lewis Palmer here, correct, right?
Yeah.
And you're an 11th grader?
Yep.
And what brought you onto the show? Why did you want to talk about mental health, and why is it so important to you?
I mean, it's important to know that everyone struggles with it at some point in their lives, whether it's now or later, like if you had previously, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's good to talk about.
Yeah. I understand that you have a story that you want to share with us regarding suicide and someone in your family is close.
Yes.
Would you mind telling us and the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my freshman year, so 2020 in December, my older brother Calvin passed away. He committed suicide in December. I don't know if I said that or not. And it was kind of a shock to everyone. Yeah.
How did this experience affect the community and the people close to your brother?
The community, it really brought a lot of people together, actually, I think. At the funeral we had for him, we kind of made it open invite so that anyone can come. We didn't want to, exclude anyone. So we had it at the Ascent, which is a church next to the middle school, and pretty much every seat was filled that they had. So, it was really nice. It brought everyone together. As far as the people close to Calvin, I'd say it still brought us together. I feel like I gained, all of his friends became, older brothers after that, so it was really nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you felt like it, though it was obviously very sad and negative, it, almost brought people together and made everyone look after each other a little bit more?
Definitely.
Okay. Do you think there was any specific driving factors within our community or just anything within his life that may have negatively affected your brother's mental health?
Definitely. I think with a lot of the isolation, he couldn't see his friends as much. Before that, previously, there was always someone over at our house that he was hanging out with, So not being around his friends as much was definitely difficult. I think that was kind of a majority of it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So it was just COVID and being locked in?
Yeah. The isolation was difficult, I think,
Okay. Was that kind of his, love language is, spending time with people?
Oh,
and
definitely,
just,
and helping people,
Okay.
Yeah.
Before your brother committed suicide, did he ever try to communicate how he may have been feeling or mention resources he was accessing, at least that you know of?
He did not. He was super stubborn, and I think that's a thing that, a lot of suicide people, a trait that they have. They're super stubborn in the way that they don't want help, and they really, refuse to get help because they don't think anything is wrong until, that deciding moment. But, we tried multiple times to, get him into therapy or ask if he wanted to talk to someone, and he wouldn't go, that kind of thing. So,
Do you think he just believed at that point it was already too late and there was no point in trying?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what can be done within our community by our students to ensure suicide doesn't continue?
So in our community, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like it's more of a case-by-case kind of thing, in your small friend group or it's really difficult. The only thing you can really do is listen. And the person that's struggling kind of just has to sit with it. There's nothing you can really do until it passes. And just sitting with them and listening is kind of the most important thing.
And I think it's just hard. I feel like it's just hard to make it apparent, at least for the first just step of just addressing it. I feel like is the hard thing, at least with what we've seen. It's just addressing the situation is the hardest part, and then continuing to address it and make note of it, and then doing efforts to prohibit anything from happening.
Yeah.
But,
Do you think when someone is refusing to get help, but you definitely know that they need help, at least from your experience, do you think there's anything that should be done within those situations?
Do you mean as in stepping in? And
Yeah,
saying
and
stepping
in, yeah.
Unfortunately, no, because it's not going to work if they're not ready for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think give them their space and allow them to take it at their own pace. Except,
well, it's a really fine line
It
between
is, yeah.
space and
Yeah.
like knowing that they're there for you. You kind of just have to reiterate a lot that you're here, you're gonna listen. If something goes wrong, like you'll be there immediately.
Yeah.
And then, like, I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, it's just a really fine line. Yeah.
Interesting.
And definitely case by case, as you
Yeah.
said. Like,
Yeah.
it really depends on the person, I would say, too.
What was I gonna sorry? Where would you recommend someone goes in a possible situation regarding suicide, whether it be just a professional resource or a loved one? And again, I think we talked about this a little bit, but like if they're ready.
Yeah. If they're ready to get help, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even if they're not, like in all scenarios.
I would start with a loved one, but if your family isn't the kind of, there's a lot of families that are not accepting of that kind of thing, so finding a friend with a family that's like that is super helpful. My family is like that. My family is so open to helping people. I mean, obviously because of our situation, but also previously, before that we were too. So just finding a friend or an adult that you know would be able to find you resources, because you can't always do that yourself.
Yeah.
And then after you found that person to help you, you can either talk to them about it occasionally or start going to therapy, which can be super helpful.
Okay.
And it's really boring for a while, but you can start, like, your progress shows, like, it's drastic if you look at it from, like, if you started like now or something, and then like a year later you can see how much you've changed if you look back. But you're not going to notice it then.
Do you think it's just the idea of having someone to like rely on and like count on you and like watch you progress, and someone you can literally tell anything? Do you think that's what's so important, is just having someone?
Having someone to share your progress with means a lot.
What did you find helpful in dealing with the grief following your brother's suicide, and who or what did you seek out to help you?
So I had already been in therapy before that, so I continued going to that, and everyone always talks about like the 5 stages of grief. They can obviously come at different times, but I was stuck in being numb and denial for so long that I wasn't really worried about like me doing something like that, or I don't know, my family too. They were all kind of in that stage with me, so that honestly helped. It was kind of like a fight or flight response, or the freeze too, when we were all stuck in freeze. So
can you remind everybody what the 5 stages are? Again?
So it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Bargaining that one can be a little bit confusing. It's saying that like if you had done something previously, that could have prevented it. So like me saying that I could have gone and talked to him to prevent it, but that would have done nothing because he already had his mind made
like
up.
regret type of thing?
Yeah, that too.
Did you ever do that to yourself after the suicide, where you're like, oh, I should have done this?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. But I think over time, it took me kind of a while, like just recently, to realize there's nothing I could have done. Yeah. He had, like, those kinds of people, they already make up their mind if they're going to do something like that, so.
One of my sister's friends, her father recently committed suicide as well, and she said the same thing to us. She put that pressure on herself for a while, and then she realized that he had already come to that conclusion, unfortunately. Besides going to therapy, was there anything else that you found helpful, maybe outside of a professional resource, whether it be friends or an activity?
The month and like the month after, it was kind of short period, I spent a lot of time with his friends. So we all spent New Year's Eve together, and it was really fun, and it was also really nice to like get to know all of them and see how he interacted with them, kind of. So
like learn more about him, like through that. That's really cool, and that's awesome.
What did you find, what can you say to someone who may be considering suicide or fearful of a loved one committing suicide?
If you're considering that kind of decision, I think it's important to realize that when someone says you're not alone, that doesn't mean like a random person on TikTok or like that's posting about it or something like that. That means like that could be the person next to you or the person across from you or like someone else in your family. So talking about it is not anything to be ashamed of, because everyone deals with it at some point. So if you're considering it, talk to someone, because more than likely they're going to be able to talk to you about it too. And then if you're fearful of a loved one committing suicide, there should be no guilt if it was like oh my gosh.
No, you're good. You're good.
If you shouldn't feel guilty if they weren't actually going to do something like that, and you still told someone because you were concerned. Because it's always better safe than sorry. So
So you think letting someone know if you're fearful that someone is going to maybe commit suicide is best, because short term they may get angry for confiding in you, but it's like it could possibly save their life. Okay.
Eventually they're going to realize that it helped. Even not just even suicide, like it could be self-harm too. If you think someone's going to do that, definitely tell someone about it.
Okay.
And is there anything else, like, regarding the situation that you would like to talk about that you would think would be helpful to anyone listening?
So psych wards, mental hospitals, I don't know, psych ward kind of sounds scary,
Yeah.
but I think those can be helpful to a certain point. And if you do have an attempt and you have to be hospitalized for it, you are required to go to one for 3 days. And I think at some point, if like you've been multiple times, it can be helpful up to a certain point. And then once you keep going, it becomes like a super, like your anxiety levels just rise so much. And you just like, it gets so unbearable that like you get worse there. So I think it's really important that if you have previously been to one, or if you're already like at that point where you think you need to go to one, I think it's important to realize your boundaries and know when the time is right to start going to therapy instead, or going to outpatient, which is just like a day program. But
I feel like there's not a ton of talk, at least, about psych ward. Like, I feel like at least I myself am not like, I don't know a ton about it, and I feel like a lot of people also don't know a ton about it. And I think it's important to distinguish the different types of like medical types of therapy that people can go to, because then there's again case by case basis. It's different for every person.
Exactly.
Regarding the psych wards, you said it was helpful up to a certain degree. When did you notice that you were getting better? And what in psych ward helped you? And then at what point did you realize it wasn't really helping you anymore and rather harming you?
When it also has a lot to do with the people that are there, which can vary a lot, obviously. But there was a point where after Calvin had passed, I did have another stay, and I felt so disconnected from my family then, and I just needed to be with them at that time because I was still grieving so heavily, and the entire time I was there, I just had a pit in my stomach. I couldn't eat. I had headaches all day. So it's more of a physical kind of thing when you realize that this is not helping anymore, and I'm not going to do this anymore. So
And did you communicate that with your parents post like leaving, just like, I don't want to like
so
or how did that go about?
There's this thing called a safety plan that you do at the end of your stay, and that was kind of what we talked about during then, that like, this is the last time, I can't do this anymore. So that was kind of when we communicated that this was going to be done with.
When after the suicide, how did you find a way to kind of like open up with your parents and talk about it? Because I'm sure for at least a little bit, maybe, I mean, I'm making an assumption here, but maybe you guys were like closed off and not talking about it, at least for a little bit, or did you guys immediately open up?
I think because previously our family was so affected by suicide and like suicide attempts, that kind of thing, we didn't have a difficult time talking about it, which was really nice. That was really helpful. And we also had so many people that were like asking us questions or like wanting to talk to us about it, and other families too that were reaching out. Like there was, oh my gosh, I forgot the last name. Jack.
Oh,
Connor.
Okay.
Kennedy. Jack Kennedy.
Okay, yeah. Connor. I know them. Yeah.
Their family. Calvin was friends with Jack, so we had brought them over a meal, which is also a thing that a lot of people do, the meal train thing. And we brought them lasagna and ice cream, and then when Calvin passed, they came over and they brought us lasagna and ice cream, which was really sweet. It's really sweet to have that kind of connection. So there was really no, like, not talking about it. It was just kind of, we have to talk about it to accept it and get on with our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there any way you could recommend, like, a strategy or something to, like, kind of start talking about to a family that's kind of maybe trying to avoid the topic?
Yeah, so if there's a family that's more closed off about that kind of topic, the only real way to get them to open up about it is either you personally talking to your parents if that's the problem, like you're saying you're struggling with this and it's really getting to a bad point, and then also saying, like, there's people at your school that have been affected by it and things like that. Okay. Just relating it to the community that you're in is super important.
And as well as, like, people that your parents know as well. Okay, interesting. Is there any specific resources that you would recommend to the audience to actually go to if you either used, or you know someone that you use, or your brother that you recommend they would go to?
So I haven't used any of these really, but there's crisis centers that you can go to. I've heard good things about them. The suicide hotline, not so much. I'm just gonna be honest.
Oh, for sure.
So crisis centers, those are in, like, emergency rooms kind of thing, but there's specific ones. There's one at Aspen Point that I know about.
And when you say the suicide hotline, was that the national line or the Colorado one?
I have not called either. I've just heard like horrible things about both.
I've
just
heard,
in like wait time and stuff like that.
I've heard similar things about the national one, and because Colorado has their own specific crisis hotline, and that's provided a lot less wait time for certain people.
I feel like that one might be better.
Because 988, while it's still a good resource, and I still recommend it to people, I think that I have heard similar things as well, as that wait times have become a continual problem. So you recommend crisis centers within Colorado. You said Aspen
Point.
Aspen Point. Okay. Awesome. I guess that kind of wraps it up. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Of course.
Before we finish, we're always going to go over our resources. Is there anything else you would want to share with the audience before?
I've got nothing. No.
Okay. Awesome. So as you guys know, we're going to share some of the local resources that you can either go to for help, or if you want to get involved in your community and spread awareness about mental health, you can also do that through these as well. So the first one is the Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention Partnership. It's a community in the Pikes Peak region oriented towards spreading awareness of mental health and suicide prevention through resources, events, and training like QPR, which is question, persuade, and refer. And that's essentially just a program that it's a very broad, like, basic program. It kind of just tells you what you should do in case of a possible suicide, or what you think someone may be considering suicide, what you should do.
Or self-harm as well.
And then they also have a teen advocacy board. If you want to join, if you're interested in that, just go on their website, and then I think click get involved or something like that, and then there's a teen board. So
we also there's also So Coalition, which is another community in the Tri-Lakes area, partnered with Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention Partnership, and this is also oriented towards teenage mental health and suicide prevention. They last year and this year too, they did like a monumentaries event, which is held at the school, where they share a bunch of different documentaries about different problems that teens are dealing with, or just anyone in general, and a lot of them were oriented around mental health. And we will need some volunteers with that event, so if you want to reach out to Miss O'Connor or Miss Sell if interested in helping their program or the Monumentaries event as well.
Another resource is NAMI and Colorado Springs branch here in Colorado Springs, believe it or not. But they offer several programs regarding improving mental health, and plenty of resources to go during a mental health crisis. And they're also partnered with So Coalition and Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention Partnership, so you can also access them through there as well. And then we have the Colorado Crisis Services, which offer immediate help to issues regarding substance abuse, sexual/identity issues, depression, anxiety, and more. So again, that's the Colorado hotline that is provided to anyone within the state of Colorado. And if you're struggling to get help regarding the national hotline, I definitely recommend going through the Colorado Crisis Services.
And there's also the Lewis Palmer School District counseling page, and that is a great directory source to find extensive resources from local to national scales, or just reaching out to our school counselor in general, Mrs. Sell.
And then last, there is the national hotline. We do know that there is wait times, but I think it's still maybe a good place to start if you are.
You could think of the
Yeah.
wait time as a positive thing, thinking that people are trying to get help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Um,
Good way to look at it.
Yeah. But yeah, the National Crisis Hotline, 988, you can either call or text them. Their suicide prevention hotline, you can get online support from a trained professional for absolutely any problem. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Emily, thank you so much for
Yes,
going on.
thank you so much for
That was
sharing
really
your story.
important, and thank you for being so willing to talk about
Yeah.
your story. And we also have our Google survey
Yes.
that we haven't got a lot of feedback recently, but that's totally okay. If you're willing to just go on either the Lewis Palmer page or our Instagram, you can find the link to it and any feedback. Or if you want to reach out and get involved and possibly come on the podcast to talk about your story, it'd be a great way to go through there as well. So we'd love it if you guys could fill that out.
You can also just Instagram DM us too. We'll always respond, and then if you want to be on the show, anything like that. So
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.
thank you.
And then,
That's awesome.
okay.